Hello first year and welcome to Story Writing Lesson 3. So today we're going to be talking about effective openings and settings. So according to our plan, this is where we are. So we've done getting to know each other, we've talked a little bit last time about story writing basics, and today we're on to effective openings and settings. So here is your lesson starter. So the words that we're focusing on, write each of these 3 times in your jotter. They're scenery, intrigued, and beautiful. And once you've written them out in your jotter 3 times each, you can try to create a sentence using all 3 words. So pause the video and try that now. Alright, so in the main part of today's lesson, we're going to be thinking about what makes a good writer. So here are some really popular, famous, well-loved books, and we're thinking about how did they get to be so fantastic. So when we're thinking about the kinds of things that make a good writer or a good piece of writing, we might think about what things. Maybe pause the video, have a quick discussion about what those things might be. Alright, so you might have come up with something that looks a little bit like this. So we've got effective openings, interesting characters, descriptive settings, properly planned out plots, and impactful endings. So when we're talking about effective openings, it's really important to establish an interesting setting for your story quite quickly, because this helps readers to visualise what's happening more easily. So if you opened up a book and the first few sentences were really, really boring, you probably wouldn't keep reading it. So you need to try and grab the reader's attention, and this is where effective openings really come into play. So to give us an idea of how memorable an effective opening can be, we're going to just play a quick game. So see if you can name the book that these opening sentences came from. Okay, all children grow up, or all children except one grow up. That one is obviously Peter Pan, all children except one grow up. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. So pause the video, where did that come from? It is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. That one is obviously from The Hobbit. If you are interested in stories with happy endings, you would be better off reading some other book. That one is from A Series of Unfortunate Events. Lyra and her demon moved through the darkening hall, taking care to keep to one side, out of sight of the kitchen. That one is from Northern Lights, or sometimes called The Golden Compass. There we go. These 2 very old people are the father and mother of Mr. Bucket. That one is from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Very good. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how memorable a really good opening to a story can be. Now, moving on, we're talking a little bit about descriptive setting. So what we're going to be doing is working on showing rather than telling. Okay, so this is something that you might have done a lot of work on already. So what we're doing is we're going to show the reader what we want them to know rather than just telling them. And this is something that is really important as it makes your writing much more interesting to read. So for task 1, what you should do in your jotter is rewrite the following statements to show the information rather than just tell it. So number 1, it was raining. Number 2, it was a beautiful day. And number 3, it seemed like a storm was coming. Pause the video, try that now. Okay, so we're moving on to discuss a little bit about the 5 senses. This is something that's also really important if you're writing a description of a setting. So just to remind yourself, this is what we mean when we talk about the 5 senses. Now, some of these are easier to include in your writing than others. So for example, sight is going to be really straightforward, but taste might be a little bit difficult and might be something that you need to give a little bit of extra thought to. So for sight, you might ask yourself, what can you see and how would you describe it? Sound, what can you hear? What words could you use to describe the sound? Smell, what fragrances might be in the air in your setting? Touch, what textures can you feel? What kind of temperature might it be? Things like that. And taste, can you almost taste any of the aromas? Like if you were at the seaside, could you perhaps taste the salty air? So bearing these things in mind, what we're going to do is write a short description of a few different interesting places using the 5 sentences. So there are 3 different settings that your teacher is going to show you, and you should write a short description of each one using the 5 senses. So here's the first one. Pause the video and try that. This is the second setting, so again, pause the video, try and write a few sentences to describe this place using your 5 senses. And this is the last setting, so pause the video, try that now. Okay, on to some RUAE. So looking at our timeline again, we're talking about own words RUAE skills. So this term we're going to be focusing on own words RUAE questions. So just remembering the different skills that we're looking at there. So we're reading and understanding unfamiliar pieces of writing. We're analysing different literary techniques or devices used by the writer. And we're evaluating how successfully they've used those techniques in their writing. So last time we looked at the extract about the white stork, but this time what we're going to be doing is answering some questions using our own words. So you'll see we've got some questions below, and you need to write the answer using your own words rather than just finding the information from the paragraph. So it says, Golden Retrievers are a very popular kind of dog. When the breed was first created, they were used for retrieving game birds during hunting. Now, they are sometimes used for hunting, but a lot of people like to have them as pets because they are very friendly. People also like them because their face looks like they're smiling all the time. Because they're so friendly, Golden Retrievers cannot be used as guard dogs, but they are good as drug dogs at airports and very good as service dogs for the blind. They also like people, so when they are left alone for too long, they get very sad. So in your OneNote, just fill out the table, answer the questions using your own words. Pause the video, try that now. Alright, and we've come to the end of today's lesson, so your teacher may read you a poem now if you have time, but just remember that if you have any questions at all, you should ask your teacher.